Hey man, you ever look into Flatter?
Alright, this was like a three dog night. I'm going to do three comparisons at different dates and times. This was October 7th, 2017. And you're really going to have to pay attention right towards the end of this little clip because there's an area here that's called Fiddler's Point. And Fiddler's Point is a good spot for me to use as a reference point of how high the water line is. And this is something that's always obscured through the mirroring effect that happens. Now, I wasn't even going to do this video, but um, I don't know. I guess I've been a little discouraged by some of the people that have attacked me. But, I got to let that go because there's always going to be people that dislike what you do. I don't even care about their reasons. But right here is coming up. You're going to see this little point here, and I got a little arrow. You could see the water line where it was at there. And this was one of these days that very, very seldomly do I ever see water on the other side of this landmass here. But, you know, Globers want to call this refraction. They can go right ahead. I call it better visibility. When we have the right conditions and the right visibility, we can see much farther. And you can actually see the boats going into the Hernando Beach Channel. On the other side of this land is the Hernando Beach Channel. And you see these boats going through there. Sorry about the shake, people. Too, it was windy. And if you know anything about my channel, I film under all kinds of circumstances, whether if it's windy, whether the visibility is good or bad. I take the good with the bad, and really what I do is I try to use them to study from. And this was a good point here because you can see this distorted water on the edge. And this distorted water is what's hiding more water beyond it. And then you also see the whiteout. Okay, that is all that illuminated haze, the buildup of haze that we see over the water. And at certain times, it will become a more or less like a mirroring effect. And that I'll show you in the second part, or on a second day of this. There's a dang mosquito here in my office I'm going to have to kill. But still see, you can still see these boats moving across, plain as day. And now, you got to realize that somebody's going to try to tell you that this land or this water is being pulled up above this land and laid out flat there for you to see. Come on. I mean, this land is, it's right there. And these boats have got to be in your line of sight in order for you to see them. And like I said, this was a really peculiar day because we had this extremely, extremely high tide. My tripod is approximately 5.5 feet. I'm not sure if I was using a remote on it. It doesn't look like I was because I'm pretty shaky. But one of the things that I always say is that where our visibility is obscured by this whiteout in the background, which basically I actually had a science teacher tell me it's illumination. The sunlight is illuminating the haze that's in the air, the humidity, and it actually creates like a curtain effect. In other words, you cannot see beyond it. It's atmospheric conditions that you can only see so far, and then, like I say, I've always said it's like a blind that just it blocks you. It's like the man walking into the bright lit room, and he goes into it, and then he vanishes into the light. Well, the same thing happens. You cannot see nothing past that because it gets vanished into that light, into that haze. It's like the gorillas in the mist, you know. You see fog, right? And somebody's walking down the road and they hit that fog edge and they walk into it and you no longer can see them. Again, you see this little band above that water that's really, really distorted. That's like a diffraction line, like in Mitchell from Australia's tabletop where he drags a coin across, or uh, was it Dino Tutillo? Also did one very similar to that, where he drags a coin across the top of a tabletop and it vanishes. But with Mitchell from Australia, he actually had set it up to where he could change his focus on it and actually see it. Why was he able to do that? Because he was close enough to that diffraction line to where he could focus in on it and actually show that you could actually still see the quarter sitting on the table. Matter of fact, you could see the edge of the quarter still sitting on the table. Well, when we're doing these long zooms and you also got this bright light that's reflecting off your tabletop, which the water is the tabletop, correct? You can't see very far from it. Now this next part again is going to be Fiddler's Point, and I took a picture of it here, and you can see this is on a day where there is this mirroring effect that occurs, and this mirroring effect really does obscure our vision, and that's what a lot of people don't understand, especially the globe defenders. They don't want to take another look at it. You know, this was filmed on 7/4 2018. Of course, July is more of a hotter month, where we get the water is heated, the air is heated, and we create this this effect. Now, if you remember on that last piece, I know I went by it real quick, but you can see the water much higher up. We just passed the Bill Watts bird rack, and then here's a boat. And again, I'm filming from Bayport. I'm pretty sure I'm at the, the fishing part pier of it. There's another spot that I filmed. It's like a secondary park. Yeah, that's Bill Watts. And look at it, how long and skinny it is, because it's just mirroring itself. Same way with these channel markers out there. You see the sign on the top, you see the sign on the bottom. The boat goes in between, because if you've ever been in a fun house and you ever walked up to one of these concave mirrors, you can see how it actually compresses your body into a into a shorter appearance, I should say. It deforms your body just like it's deforming this boat. Now, I sped this up here because I wanted to kind of get through it a little bit, but also I want you to see that, you know, this boat is not floating in the air. It's not being picked up by some magical refraction, flicking it back up into the sky so we can see it. It's just that that water is just completely being mirrored. And just like the Raleigh criterion, any object will vanish within its own reflection, or if you took two coins and put them side by side, and the farther I got away from you, eventually those two coins would wind up looking like one or blending into the next. And also with Mitchell from Australia, his little coin, if you would have thought of that as the sun moving across a flat plane, it would have been a light source. It would have vanished bottom up, just like what we see when we're out observing the sun departing our view. And this is another thing too. These boats vanish. They get um, distorted and obscured really quickly, and they vanish. Now you can see that boat was sitting in the water. Here's the halfway marker that I'm always talking about, and you can see it's actually starting to, it's mirroring in front of it. Um, and that's the halfway marker to the Bayport. I think it's 1.5, 2 miles tops from me. Um, also, you can see a crab trap sitting there floating. But you know, even look at these channel markers, how much taller they look and stretched out they are. That's because they're being mirrored. And the farther ones you can obviously tell because you are seeing the bottom or the top being reflected at the bottom, like right there. So where actually is the horizon? Well, we can say right there on that, on these markers, you can almost split them in two. And there's the stick or the dead tree I always talk about in my videos. All right, now this was on the same day. I'm still on the same day, but you know, things visibility actually kind of got a little bit better as far as less distortion. But watch as I track this boat. Obviously, you can see its wake, the water coming out the back of the transom of the boat. And he's got double motors on there. That's not a little boat. Yeah, that's a good sized boat right there. I'd probably say it's a good 30, 40-foot boat. Probably more like a 30-foot boat. But you can tell, look at this, look at how everything's starting to mirror here. His wake is mirroring. The wave that he's putting out is mirroring. The water that he's squirting out the back of the transom of the boat is mirroring. And two, also, you got to look at the angles, the different angles that these boats go on. They give you a different appearance. Like when he turns here, you can see that that wake is actually blocking out part of the boat. Now, what happens when you don't see this wake? When there's a lot of mirroring, you don't always see that wake. You don't always see that water being sprayed up, but that water that's being sprayed up, look how it is blocking out the hull of the boat. And again, people want to know why the bottom end vanishes first. Well, there's multiple reasons. It isn't just because of diffraction. Um, this mirroring effect does it too. Obviously, as you're watching this boat, you can see how the wake itself is blocking it. But we're going to speed it up here. Get out here a little further. And you can even see that water right there. It's another wake, or might even be the wake from this boat, because the way that the channel goes out, as it goes out, it turns to the left and then it turns hard to the right, and you might be just seeing that boat's wake moving away, moving out away across the water. But anyhow, as you watch this boat, it doesn't nothing but it gets smaller and smaller, which in turn makes it harder and harder to resolve, correct? But this was a pretty cool little observation, because this boat goes out, and what I wanted to show was when it gets out here by the Bayport rack, how cool it is. Again, I see the Bayport rack do all kinds of things. You know, here it is. It's mirroring itself in the water. You can almost see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You see the 6th and the 7th are blended in there, right in the middle of that rack. Is 6 and 7 horizontal slots. I think people heard me talk about these before. And if you're not familiar with my videos, you probably won't understand it. But See how that wake vanishes now, that where you can't see the wake of the boat splashing out the water? But watch as this boat, it'll do a turn. And when it turns, you'll see a little bit different vantage point of it. You'll see a profile look. Oh, here he goes. He's going to start turning. And you'll even see this boat hopping a little bit. Why? Because it's going to run back over its own wake. Why? Because he turns around and he does some weird stuff here. But you can see how in this mirroring, how that his wake is vanished, but it's still blocking out part of the boat. Why? Again, it's because he's in this mirroring zone. So this mirroring actually blocks you out pretty good from seeing it. Now here I sped it up even faster. And he's going to start coming back toward me. Guess he just took his boat out for a spin. But you'll start seeing his wake come up again. You start seeing his wake show up. And also look at his lighting too. I always look at that lighting as being pretty cool when the light of the boats are lit up. Alright, now I'm going to zoom back. Kind of give you a little view around. You can see the tide is a little bit, try to get that mosquito. It's mirroring everything. It's mirroring the sky. This boat here, it's getting mirrored underneath. And this is what, it is like looking into a concave mirror. Why? Because the mirror is on the floor. And then you also have the sky, which is converging onto that mirror, which again just causes this mirroring effect and things to vanish. It does cause a concave mirror effect, period. There's no doubt about it. Anybody that don't understand concave mirrors, go to a fun house, go to a carnival, check it out. Now this next part here, I'm going to let the audio play and show you what I'm going to do here with this, because this is always something I wanted to do and show. There's the water right here in these weeds. Well, I'm not far. Yeah. I'm not far off the weeds at all. Get back on my boat here. I want to zoom back in on it. Alright, I just wanted to make a short little video of this, just so you could see that that water is not very far into them weeds. Okay, and here's the view from here. I might put my phone up just like this, on a stick. There we go. Look at that boat. How far out he is. You see water well behind him. Oh, it's shit, smackaroni. Look at it like looking across a tabletop, where you're level with the tabletop and you're just seeing a slice of it, a sliver. That's what you're seeing out there beyond the boat, is a sliver of the sky. I mean, of the water. It's just a sliver of the water. Yeah, let me get it full zoom. That's full zoom. That's on infinity.
down slow, not fast.
Okay, obviously on this day I did set up in that secondary park area, and I'm on the corner to where I can actually turn around and look. Um, and right here, believe it or not, this is Cutter's Rock. Uh, you know, and I was still calling um, Billy Steele's Cutter's Rock at this point still. I didn't find it until later on. So I did, in some of my earlier videos, I did identify that one rack. But obviously, you can see much further. My visibility is much clearer. A lot less distortion. The boat's visibly in the water. Everything's much clearer. And all I am is about a half a foot higher than the first part of the video. The only difference is the tide was higher when I was at the seawall. But again, I'm not much higher up now, and I am a little closer. I might be 100, 200 yards a little bit, because I could actually turn around from where I'm at and see the fishing pier. But obviously, you clearly see this boat in the water. Now I'm going to speed some of this up because this was a lot of footage. I mean, even look at the birds out there. You know, and look how calm the water is. The water's really, really calm. It's got a little slight ripple to it, but the water's real calm. Again, look at this boat that's even farther beyond this big boat. Now, the wind isn't bad, so the only shaking you're getting is from me. I'm kind of a little shaky here because, what I'm seeing, I'm going, wow, this is crazy. My audio, I took my audio off because basically I wasn't really saying a lot, but wow, I was saying a lot of wows. But even this boat, when you watch it change its direction or its its angle, you can obviously tell it changes. And then that was the halfway marker that I just passed. But look at this boat. You can actually still see his wake. You can see a guy standing up on the top of the boat, I believe, right there, working on it. I think that's a guy. Or I might be thinking of another video. But you can obviously see that there's nothing missing out of this boat except for what the wake is blocking off. I mean, you can still see the wake of the boat. You can see the ass end of the boat. You can even see the wake of the boat behind it. It's producing waves. And again, look at the birds. I'm not focused in on the birds, but here's the halfway marker. Look where the water's coming up to. And believe it or not, the water's actually higher up than that. It's just being obscured by that mirroring effect, because the mirroring effect, instead of being close to me today, is way out on the horizon. And you will see that after a while here, especially when I get to the end of the video. And I probably should have said at the very beginning that this was not going to be a short video. It's going to be a long one. But that's all right. Because this is what I do. This is my niche. I do long observations. I study them. I learn from them. Like watching this boat right here change its angle. It turns, it twists, and it gives me different view of it. And it shows me right now I can actually see how the waves are waking up at the bottom of the boat. It's lapping at the bottom of the boat. Look at it right here. You can see it is wavier offshore than it is up close to shore. Also, pay attention to that white haze in the back. you're going to see it change. This is something that I'm always trying to show people. You see at the top of these channel markers, that's where the water is. The water is up at the top. Now, people will argue with me about it. They'll say, oh, that's some kind of looming or something. But no, this is water, folks. And I'm going to show you. I thought I was going to show you with that last piece coming up, something that I always wanted to do. I did it last night, and I stuck it in this video because I want to show people where the actual eye level line would be on the Bayport rack. The Bayport rack is the closest rack to me, and I'm usually always zooming in on it first. Just, I guess it's a habit that I go out there and I find the Bayport rack first off. Not always, but a big portion of the time I go out there and I shoot the Bayport rack first thing. I locate it, find it, and then go from there. And two, when I'm at Pine Island, everything changes. It's in a different position. Never, boy, that was a glitch or something in here, so I hope it don't mess with my audio too much. But obviously, I sped the video up here. And look at that water going well beyond, folks. Well beyond. And this boat gets farther and farther away. And there's a way you can tell because I'm looking more at the back of the boat than I am at a side profile view. So I know that this boat is moving away from me. It's not moving directly across from me. It's moving away, folks. So when it goes behind the Bayport rack, it's a couple of miles beyond the Bayport rack. It's not just right at the Bayport rack. It's a couple of miles beyond it. And in part of this too, I will start giving you the distances to these bird racks from pretty much my location. All right, here's the Bayport rack. And the Bayport rack is approximately 3.25 miles. Might be 3.5 miles. I did the measurements on my navigation map, and it's really, really hard to do to actually pinpoint right where you're standing. It's not hard to pinpoint the beacon markers. It's just hard to pinpoint where I'm actually at on the land because it's such a small map. It's hard to determine exactly where I'm at. So it's probably closer to 3.5 miles. I've actually had some fishermen tell me it's even farther than that, but I'm going to go with what my navigation map says and the sites say. And a couple people did do the coordinates on it. I got a video from Buster Brown that I used in the past in some of my videos that show the distances, but they show them from Pine Island, so it didn't work so well from Bayport. Okay, the Bayport North Rack is approximately 8.05 miles. All right, and I got a little piece here that I stuck in here that I made last night or yesterday that show you with a virtual horizon and a level where eye level should be. Hang on, here it comes. Here we go. Got the virtual horizon on. I don't have it in full zoom, but I'm gonna bring you over here to my level here. I gotta get right in the center of it because otherwise it looks like it's not level, but that's level because I spent a few minutes doing it here.
Don't make her a bad person.
I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Okay, and there's where your virtual horizon is. Above the rack. Okay, above the rack, folks. Right where I show it to you in some of my videos.
Alright, back to this same old boat here that I've been tracking. And again, there's the Bayport North Rack. Again, look at the sign to the right of that little sign. That only sticks up about 10 feet. So you can see the difference. And most of these racks on my navigation map say that they're between 14 and 16 feet tall. So they're not very tall at all. And for my height that I'm at, you can do the math if you want. But that rack should be well below the curvature of Earth. But it's not. It's sitting flat out there, obviously, with water going well beyond it. And people want to say, refraction, refraction. If anything, what refraction does is it blocks us off. It does not allow us to see. It obscures our vision. Now, even on this halfway marker, the water does go above it. I still think the water is above most of these, but it is being mirrored farther out instead of up close. And here's that little boat again way out there. He's doing some turns and some spins here for us so we can get a little bit of different view on them. And I'm coming up to another spot where I'm going to use some arrows, some markers. Now there's, again, there's Cutter's Rock at 11.22 miles. Actually, from my location at Bayport, Cutter's Rock was at 11.5 miles. And obviously you can see water beyond it. There's Billy Steele's. Now again, you know, I was more off to the right when you could see Cutter's Rock. And then there's the Hernando Beach marker. And then I'm going to come over here. There is the Bill Watts marker. I'm going to zoom in on it. But that's Bill Watts. Not that one, but the tall one. And again, look at the channel markers out there. And look at the light distorting. This is light refraction. If you want to talk about light refraction, that is what light refraction does. Is it lights up the water, it reflects up, and it's distorted, so it starts blocking out anything that gets in there. Obviously, I talk about the objects that are distorted. See, everything right to a certain point is in good visibility, no distortion, but once it gets up into that area, it would be distorted because of the light reflection, refraction, reflecting off the water. You know, they want to talk about light bending around a curve, but it does not apply to this. Now, if you take a laser and you put it through in a fish tank with different layers of dense material or dense liquids in it, different densities, yeah, you will get light bending. But we're not looking out there with a laser. We're in a line of sight of everything. Now, here's the main boat I want to talk about. That one right there. But first of all, we're going to go over here to this side. I'm going to take a picture. Now, I put the arrow on the visible water line and then where I think the actual water line is. And you can go all the way back to the first part of the video where I put that arrow up. And you can actually see that water line is coming up there. And that was, again, on a super high tide. The water line is above that portion of land right there. That actually, that's mangroves. Get up into some areas where there's a bunch of mangroves, you can do some good snook fishing. All right, now you can start seeing all of that distorted water out there. And here's this boat, and I'm going to track this boat for a while. And I think you're going to like it because it's pretty neat. Obviously, the boat is going away from me. I keep getting these notifications, and they disturb me because they pop up and they kind of block out part of my screen at the bottom where I'm looking to make sure I'm not overlapping some audio. But obviously, I mean, I've sped some of this up just so we wouldn't have to be sitting here for 3 hours. Again, I like doing these long observation. Here's the Bill Watts that he's fixing to go past. Actually goes on the back side of the Bill Watts rack. And he turns and he's going to go back behind it again. This boat is heading south. This boat is heading toward Hernando Beach. Or not Hernando Beach. It's heading to Hudson Beach. Now, I literally figured out the amount of time on these videos from the time that I picked this boat up. It's 45 minutes that I follow and track this boat until I can't really track it no more. Or at least I didn't think I was able to. If I would have turned up my ISO on my camera, I might have been able to follow it a little bit longer. But actually, the distance that I followed it, even if this boat was going 15 miles an hour, he was already over 3 miles away from me to begin with. So, you know, if he's going about 15 miles an hour, which I think he's actually going faster, but just say 15 miles an hour, this boat's going to go about 10 miles. So he's going to be about 14 miles away when I stop tracking him. Now, how can that be? Now, again, people say that that's not water out there, that's, you know, the earth being bent up because of this magical refraction. And I'm sorry, but it ain't. But I'm gonna put a little music on here in a minute. David Caron, somewhere nowhere. Yeah, somewhere nowhere on level Earth. So again, this is David Caron. I hope I don't mess up his name, but check his music out.
Somewhere far across the sea, far from where trouble could reach you or me. Somewhere, nowhere, tranquility will await us, you'll see. Somewhere shipwreck will be, we'll find an island and we will be free. Somewhere far from the sirens, far from the
Again, that's David Caron. I'll put a link to his channel in the description. I'll probably even post it in a comment. You got to check the man out. I mean, he's one hell of a songwriter, singer, musician, everything, man. I mean, this guy's video editing too is actually killer. Some of the stuff that he does. And again, look at this boat. Do you see anything missing from it? Not at all. And look at that one go by. You know, you can obviously see that this boat is gradually rising. Why? Because the horizon does rise to the eye level. So again, you know, obviously the boat is in the water, nothing missing. The only thing that may be getting cut off is from any wakes or waves that might be occurring out there. This video was posted once before too. But again, I didn't get really a lot of views on it, and Taboo Conspiracy took the footage and you know, made it a lot smaller. He cut it down a bit, edited it really fast, and turned it into like a 5-minute video. I just can't do that. Like I say, I like to show detail, and I like to look at detail. Another guy that's doing some really good work is A Fresh Look at Truth, Harry. He's from Australia. He's doing some really fabulous work too himself. Again, you can see this mirroring line above the boat still. And that's, again, where I say the water is. And right here, I took a screenshot, and I changed took some of the saturation rate out. Obviously, you can still see the entire boat in the water. And this boat has got to be a good 8 miles away by now, if not further. Again, you know, when he turns, you can get a profile view of it, and be able to see more of the boat. And again, the boat's going to turn again, and he's going to go directly away from me again. See how his boat changes. But again, if you look, none of this boat is being cut off by the curvature of Earth. Why? Because there's no curvature of Earth. It's just an illusion of a curvature. When you get these good visible days, obviously you can even see these little birdies out here along this edge, where if you watch them, now and then one of them kind of disappear in a little wake or a little wave. You know, you see them bobbing up and down there. This is a big tail. Especially, all of this footage was taken with the P900 too. I did not have the P1000 yet. So this was footage taken with the P900. So it has the 87 times zoom on it. Or was it 83? I think it was 83 times zoom on the P900. Here, I did change the saturation rate a little bit, the brightness, and the contrast. I wanted to try to pull it out a little bit more to allow you to see the boat. And then there's another part in here where I basically just use the brightness. I brighten the screen up so you can actually see the boat a little bit better. But now, obviously, the boat's getting to the point where it's getting distorted, and I would expect that. Okay, now you compare that little boat compared to that big boat. Okay, big difference in perspective. And this is the thing, a lot of these globe guys say that they understand perspective, they understand convergence, they understand parallel lines, but they just don't understand flat Earth, because they can't get it through their thick head that when you're looking out across the water, the sky meets the ground or the water. Why? Because it's his convergence point. And at that convergence point, all the information is compacted into a tiny little sliver, into this angular resolution, that when you get to a certain point, all that information is so jumbled up you cannot make heads or tails of it, folks. So again, we are getting into that convergence point where everything is getting jumbled up. Now you can obviously, again, you can see the birds at a certain point, but then you can't see birds past it. But there's probably birds out there. Why? Because they are so small you cannot resolve them. The camera cannot resolve a bird on that small of an angle. I mean, I'm actually surprised I'm seeing the birds right here, being that they are probably, it looks to me like they're out there in that 3-4 mile area. And then you got, again, look at the distance between those birds and that boat. There's probably 4 miles, 5 miles, maybe even 6 miles in between there. Again, zoom back, show you where I'm at. Get them on that corner. I got the GPS locations for those if people want them. And I obviously showed you that my camera was not very high off the water. So again, you know, I do these to learn, and I do get a lot from them, because one of my main ones is the Bayport rack. I've showed you many different appearances that it shows, different conditions, different effects. One of the last ones I showed was the bird rack getting eaten, filmed from Pine Island. And other times when I'm at Pine Island, I can zoom in on the Bayport rack, and it is like magnified because it takes up the whole screen. In other words, from top to bottom of the screen, it will take that whole screen up. And on other days, it will be just like at the beginning of this, where I zoom in and it is like smaller. It's compressed, and it's but altogether it's smaller. And this is why I think that happens a lot of times, because I notice it affects the horizon line too, and the visible water, the apparent horizon. It actually compresses it. Why? Because everything's getting magnified, it's getting pulled in, and when you pull something in, it pulls it in, and it actually pushes everything down. And then if you have that mirroring out there, or that haze, it displaces everything. It pulls it down. It hides it within that hazy atmospheric condition that's beyond the bird racks. I've even got some where the haze was just enough for me to see, even like Cutter's Rock. It was just hazy enough to see it. So I know I had good visibility that particular day, just like this day. The visibility is absolutely awesome. Now, you would think that by now, you would not see any of this boat from a, just say a 6 foot. I don't even care if you want to use 7 foot. If you say that I'm at 7 feet, I should not see this boat at 10 miles. And I guarantee you that this boat is 10 miles or further. Like I said, 45 minutes of tracking it, depending on how fast it's moving. It's basically gonna, it should have been gone. Obviously now it turns inward, and this is where I think it's heading toward Hudson Beach area or Sea Pines. I wouldn't think it would be heading towards Sea Pines, because in Sea Pines there's really no place for these shrimp boats to go. But okay, here's where I just brightened up the screen so you can see the boat. And at one point here, I think I get tired of tracking it, because again, I'm looking through this little screen. and it's really hard for me to see it in the little screen. But one of the other things that I was talking about too is when we see the sun supposedly set, right, if it's going down below the curvature of Earth, shouldn't we see a big Earth shadow? I mean, if trees and buildings cast shadows, shouldn't we see this big dark shadow be casted up above us and over our heads? But no, what do we see? We see light. Why? Because the sun really did not go below the curvature of a spinning ball Earth. Okay, here I brightened it up even more, but unfortunately I quit tracking it. But I wanted to just show you this because I thought it was pretty cool. The original video is pretty dark, and actually I think that boat went on the other side of the trees there, so I wasn't able to track it. Again, it's heading towards Hudson Beach. Okay, here's the Hernando Beach rack. Then the Hernando Beach rack is I got 5.75 miles. The Bill Watts rack is 3.5. Actually, I think the Hernando Beach rack is more like 6 miles. Billy Steele's is 8.63 miles right there. Obviously, you can see water beyond it. You can still see that horizon line beyond it. Now, I will admit, part of that might be a reflection. That little portion at the very top might be some kind of a reflection. Again, I kind of go back and forth between these three racks. And in one of my videos, one of my earlier videos too, and I think I recopied it and did it over, where I used my cell phone on Bill Watts, the Hernando Beach, and Billy Steele's, and I took my cell phone all the way down to 2 inches off the water. I had my knuckles in the water with my phone just, you know, right there, and you could see those three bird racks. And I'm talking 2 inches off the water with a cell phone. That was on one of the real awesome days of visibility that I had, or an evening of good visibility. I was even had my my camera down doing time lapses, down like at 2 feet, doing time lapses. This is what a lot of people don't, I guess they just don't get. Again, here's the Bayport rack. Again, it's like 3.5 miles away. Now, there is a difference between the Bayport rack and Bill Watts. Bill Watts is a skinnier rack, and I think that one is more like 16 feet tall or 14 feet tall, and this one is probably 12 feet tall. I have to look at it again because I mean, one of them might say 16. But here's the North rack, 8.05 miles. And you can still see that water beyond it, of course. And this is what's crazy. You know, people want to say that I'm crazy. People want to say that I don't know what I'm talking about. Been doing this for 4 years. I've got such a library full of visual proofs. Showing visibility is the key. You know, in certain times of the year, you get that perfect day. Most of the time in Florida, it's in the winter months. It's when I get some of my best visibility. But I think it was 2018 July is when I started having some technical difficulties with my P900. But I went out in July, which July is one of our hottest months. And what I think it was we had hot water. The ocean waters were hot. The air temperature was hot, but they were like pretty equal to each other. I got some of the best footage, and people just overlooked it. I don't know what it was about it. You know, I'm pretty sure I cut it down into small pieces, and still nobody watched it, or hardly watched it. And I want to know that, you know, I guess what I want to say is I don't want to waste my time. If there's people out there that really do like my observations and that they're learning from them, please let me know, because I'll start putting more of them out there again. Again, look, water well beyond, water well beyond. So again, wow, 1 hour video, something I wanted to make short. I'm just gonna end it right here. So thanks a lot for watching, folks. Have a good night. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope I made sense. It's what it's about, common sense, using your eyes, your mind, and again, basic common sense tells you a lot. All right, thanks a lot, folks, for watching. Appreciate it. Have a good night. Have a good day. Have a good evening, morning, wherever you're at in the world. Have a good one. Bye.